Strange, yet true stories, tales from the light side, the dark side, and the other side. I'm Steve White. Coincidence. We've all had those weird situations in our lives when a chance occurrence of an event coincides with a thought we've just had, or something we read a few moments ago, or possibly seeing somebody or something that a logical explanation of it being there isn't possible. So we just say it's a coincidence. There are those among us that don't believe in coincidence. Instead, they believe that everything happens for a reason. There is no such thing as happenstance or pure dumb luck. And so it is with this story. It was the same toy monkey. I'm the youngest of 5 kids. I grew up in a fairly normal household in Erie, Pennsylvania, with my Catholic parents and my 2 sisters and 2 brothers. We did all the typical things a family in western Pennsylvania did. We were all about 2 years apart. We played sports. My sisters took dance, and me and my brothers teased them nearly incessantly. We had a basement full of toys to play with, and we were constantly getting into trouble. We were either playing too loud or too rough, or one of us, usually me since I was the youngest, would invariably end up crying and running to one of my parents to tattle on one of my brothers or sisters. There was one toy that none of us played with, though. It was this creepy-looking stuffed monkey that sat in a dark corner of the room. It had this orangish-brownish fur, and it had this hard plastic or rubber face with an open-mouthed, full-teethed, sly grin and these eyes that bulged out of its head. It just sat there. It wasn't plush. It wasn't cuddly. It certainly wasn't a cute toy by any means. My older brothers were constantly trying to get rid of it, hiding it, but it always kept finding its way back to the corner. We suspected it was our dad who kept finding it and returning it. He had this weird thing he would do with this monkey. Anytime we were acting up or being too loud or doing something he didn't like, he would come down to the basement and grab that monkey, and he would shake it at us and torment us with it. We would try to get him to stop, but once he got started with his torment, it was a long while before he would stop, leaving most of us in tears, even my oldest brother. He called this monkey his favorite child and said that it had been in the family longer than any of us kids, so he loved it more than any of us. He used to say, "This monkey hasn't made a sound, not a peep, since it's been in this house. If only you kids were more like this monkey, this would be a much nicer and quieter place to live." It was a weird thing to hear your dad say, even as a 5-year-old kid. It didn't seem to make much sense, yet he said it a lot. That was one of the reasons we kept trying to get rid of it. That, and it was an ugly, almost evil-looking thing. But this one day, it went a little longer than normal, and my dad, who was typically a very loving father, except when he had this monkey in his hands, got a little out of control with us. This happened on a Saturday in the spring of 1998, late April, early May perhaps. I was 8 years old at the time. It had been raining for like 3 straight days, and we were inside the house for most of that time. So 5 kids with pent-up energy raising holy hell in the basement. We had played every game we had on our PlayStation, and as the youngest, was getting the crap beat out of him, both virtually and in real life. I had enough and just sort of snapped and started beating on my 2 older brothers, just wailing on them. Well, I wasn't doing much to them, and they were dishing it back doubly to what I was giving them. Tears and snot were flying. Our shirts were ripping. We were hitting and grabbing and pulling on each other. Well, my father hears all this, and he has had enough. He comes down the stairs to the basement. Instead of coming to my rescue, I see him go grab that stupid monkey from the corner of the room. He then comes back to us as we were rolling and punching each other on the floor, and he starts screaming at us to shut up and get off of each other, you bunch of animals. He pulls my oldest brother off the pile and then my middle brother, leaving me laying on the floor, my nose bloody, My Mario Brothers hand-me-down t-shirt ripped in several places. We could all see the fury in his eyes and on his face. He had reached his limit, and he was ready to let loose on all of us. "You see this monkey? Do you? This monkey has more common sense, more intelligence, more civility than any of you kids," he yelled as his cheeks flushed red and sweat beads popped on his forehead. "You are a bunch of animals, and I'm sick of it. I've had it with all of you. This monkey has yet to make a sound in all the time it has been in this house, and it has been in this house longer than any of you. There are lots of times when I would rather be in the company of this toy monkey, my favorite child, than to be in the same room with any of you. Your sisters are upstairs quietly reading. You 3 are going outside." "But Dad," we protested, "it's rain." "Tough," he interrupted, shoving the monkey in each of our faces. "I don't care if the neighbors are building an ark. I don't care if the earth floods and I'm left alone on this planet with this toy monkey. You 3 are going outside now." We trudged upstairs and put on rain jackets and went outside. We didn't know what to do. It was flat pouring buckets outside, and since it had been 3 days since we had seen the sun, it was muddy and deep puddles were everywhere. We walked a little way up the road. There was a basketball court about 3 blocks from our house with a little picnic shelter. We ran under the shelter, enabling us to get out of the rain for a bit. We started talking, mumbling stuff about how Dad was mean and he had lost it. "There's something about that stupid monkey," said my oldest brother. "It's like he gets that thing in his hands and he just loses control," he added. "We've got to get rid of that thing," said my middle brother. "We've tried," I said. "That thing creeps me out. I don't even want to touch it." We devised a plan there under the shelter to get rid of that thing that night. The rain slacked off a bit, and we wandered back to the house. Our mom met us at the door with dry towels and a loving hug for each of us. We changed clothes, had a peaceful dinner with the rest of the family, and were quiet the remainder of the evening. About midnight, my brothers woke me up and we put our plan to get rid of that monkey into action. We had a big plastic garbage bag and we tiptoed down the stairs to the basement. There were some permanent markers in the basement and I grabbed one. We tiptoed to the corner where the monkey was sitting. My oldest grabbed it by the throat and was getting ready to shove it in the bag when I stopped him, uncapping the marker, and I drew all over its stupid plastic face. I made these jabbing, stabbing motions with the pen, making these distinctive heavy check marks on the forehead and cheeks and neck. My middle brother grabbed it from my hand and made this triangular squiggle mark on it. My oldest said that was enough, and he shoved it down into the bag, spun it around to seal it off. We went back upstairs with it, being very quiet and careful to not wake anybody. My brother stuffed it deep into his closet for the time being. Tomorrow was Sunday. We'd be in church a good portion of the day, and then Monday was trash pickup day, and we were going to dispose of it in the garbage can. My dad noticed the monkey was not in its normal place on Sunday afternoon, and began to search for it like he typically did. But he had no success finding it. He grumbled a bit about it, but gave up after a while. On Monday morning, my brothers and I woke up early, listening for the sound of the garbage truck in the neighborhood. A little after 6 that morning, we could hear the beeps and the sounds of the garbage truck coming down our street. While we watched from the front window, my oldest brother ran out with the trash bag, depositing it in the can at the road. He ran back into the house, closing the door quietly. He joined us at the window just as the garbage truck pulled in front of our house. The trash was put in the truck, and in just a few seconds was gone to the next house. We all looked at each other with pride. We had done it. We had finally gotten rid of that hideous-looking monkey. Just then, my father walked into the room, surprised to see us up so early and crouching by the window. He asked, "What the hell are you boys doing? You guys are up to no good." We made some stuttering and stammering noises, and then made some lame excuse that he wasn't buying. "I haven't found that monkey yet," he said, looking at all three of us. "If you guys have destroyed it or harmed it in any way, you will be sorry. It will find its way back to you somehow, some way." Well, that was a little freaky. But my oldest brother said we hadn't done anything with it. He made up a story about our sisters playing with it the day before, and maybe they had it. He huffed and puffed a little, but walked away mumbling something under his breath. When he was out of the room, we three looked at each other with a mix of satisfaction and fear. What did he mean? It would find its way back to us. For the next week, my father paced all over the house looking for that monkey. He mumbled and glared at us. He pointed a finger at us and told us again if we had done any harm to that monkey, it would find its way back to us, somehow, some way. After a week or so, my father gave up looking for it. He wasn't happy with us because he knew we had done something with it. He couldn't prove it, but he knew. Fast forward 9 years later. I'm 17 years old, and I had gone up to Toronto, about 200 miles from Erie, to visit with some friends. I got a call from my mom that my dad had passed away suddenly from a heart attack just an hour prior. The news hit me hard. He was a good dad. My mom and I shared memories of the good times we had together. We cried and consoled one another on the phone. We hung up after I told her I was on my way back. As I'm walking back to my car, tears still welling up in my eyes, a furry, orange object catches my attention. It was lying in the gutter, and I was drawn to it. As I approached it, I could see it was a stuffed animal. The closer I got, I could tell it was like the stuffed monkey from that day 9 years ago, lying face down. I leaned down, picked it up, and turned it over. To my absolute astonishment, it was the same toy monkey from all those years ago. It still had the permanent marker on it, the squiggly triangle my brother drew, the jabbed check marks on its forehead, cheeks, and neck. It wasn't like the one we had. It was the one we had had. It had found its way back to me, somehow, some way, on the day my father died. Coincidence? Yeah, a really freaky one. Or was it? Was it a message? A sign? I drove home with the monkey in my car that night. Did I keep it? Hell no. That monkey was still creepy, and I was a little freaked out by the whole thing. My brothers were as stunned as I was when I told them the story, but we all agreed that thing had to go. We didn't mess with the trash anymore. Instead, we took it outside and burned that monkey in an old barrel. We loved our father, and still miss him to this day. But that monkey, I never want to see anything like that again. This has been another strange yet true story. If you have ever had a strange coincidence or supernatural occurrence happen in your life, we'd love to hear about it. Send your story to strangebutTrueStories2@gmail.com. I'm Steve White. Until next time.